What you're about to see are some of Robert Bussey's top ninjutsu black belts demonstrating basic stretching and conditioning exercises. It is one of Mr. Bussey's philosophies to train a modern ninja warrior. He feels that in order to do this, he must have total flexibility.
Hello, my name is Robert Bussey. Welcome to our first tape in a series of ninja tapes on the modern ninja warrior. What you're seeing right now is various conditioning skills and stretching that we use in ninjutsu. These are the type of techniques that you're going to see if you were to come to train at our dojos or if you were to come to our summer camp. Flexibility and mobility and body strength is essential if you want to be a strong martial artist. If you want good kicks, good balance, good stealth, climbing skills, you need to understand the principles of warm-up and the principles of stretching. Now, you're more than welcome to follow along at home, going through some of these techniques with my black belts. Please feel free to try any of the skills. What you're seeing here first is a leg stretching technique. Flexibility in the legs is very, very important. We stress it quite a bit in our dojo. It really helps with all of our techniques of ninjutsu, including our combat techniques. Please follow along. What you're seeing now is a variation of the hurdler stretch. It's a very common stretch that we do in our dojo. Notice the just minimum amount of bouncing. Bouncing is very dangerous with this stretch. Make sure that you do a very gradual kind of pressure down onto the muscle. A very light bob will not hurt you, but be careful not to overdo it because it will cause the muscles to tense up. This technique stretches the inner part of the thigh, which is excellent for climbing techniques and for back kicks, for example. You should find time in every single day to do your stretching. I would suggest that you probably get a good hard stretch in between a half hour and an hour, approximately 3 times a week, and then you should fill the rest of the week with various light stretching. I prefer to stretch early in the mornings and late in the evening. You're going to find that you're going to be least flexible when you get up in the morning and most flexible when you go to bed at night. That's because the muscles have been used and warmed up. That's the reason we stretch, is to warm those muscles so that we don't have any injuries during training. This is a side stretching move here. This may seem very difficult for you to do when you start out, but if you keep working with it, you'll get better at it. You got to remember, all those black belts out there didn't have flexibility at one time. It just comes from constant training and work and dedication. This stretch really helps to isolate the one particular leg muscle. It's very good, of course, to stretch both sides equally. Have a balance in your stretching. Mobility is a very, very important factor in ninjutsu. Whether you're out and moving about through the woods, or whether you're in combat or just walking down the street every day, mobility and balance is very, very essential. So stretching is something that you should really concentrate on, and as far as I'm concerned, one of the most important aspects of martial arts training. The front splits technique really helps develop our back kicking power and our flexibility. Of course, he uses both sides. This is a very difficult stretch to get down at first, but once you get it, you'll maintain that flexibility pretty easily. Light stretching every day will maintain that stretch. Arching his back and his neck from the front stretch position. And you notice he takes his time when he does his stretching. Don't try to jerk into the motion. It's just not good for you. Just take your time and glide into every stretch. And just kind of reach into that pain feeling, but don't overdo it, because that's how you can tear muscles. Just take your time, glide through each stretch. Stretching can be just like therapy, and if you do the proper breathing along with it, you'll find that you'll be able to stretch much easier. It'll help relax you and the such. What you're seeing here is some of the black belts doing, of course, push-ups, which is something we do in our dojo quite often to develop arm strength. Pull-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, these kinds of techniques are very, very good for developing body strength that'll aid in all the aspects of your ninja training. We call these partial sit-ups because it doesn't put any strain on the lower back, and yet it isolates the muscles in the stomach. That's what we want. Okay, whether it's jumping jacks or just bobbing and weaving or moving back and forth or light jogging, whatever helps to get the blood to flow through the body before you engage in high-speed activity, it's wise to do so.
Ninjutsu, proper rolling and falling techniques. What you're about to see are some of the basic and advanced rolling and falling techniques as practiced in Robert Bussey's academies.
Rolling is a very important aspect to ninjutsu. Not only traditional, but it's also a very good contemporary way of developing our ninja techniques. Mr. Legband is demonstrating the very basic front roll, very slow for you, so that you can try this at home. Notice he lowers his body down to the ground and kind of absorbs the ground. He tucks over one shoulder, pulls his base or back leg up nice and tight, and just basically rolls over like a ball. Now watch closely as he demonstrates this technique. Mr. Legband will roll over the right shoulder and the left hip. Now that he reverses it, it'll be left shoulder, right hip. It's a very smooth transaction of energy and motion. This is a basic walking front roll. This really helps to develop natural front roll motion. Now, unlike many other martial arts where they might slap the mat or slap the floor, the ninja would just ball up and be as quiet as possible. An application of the front roll can be used in combat as well. Watch closely as Mr. Legband uses the rolling technique against the defense of a joint lock. The basic back roll. Mr. Matt Jackshaw, one of my top ninja black belts, is demonstrating how to ball up and do a back roll. He's doing it very slowly so that you can try this at home. The first step you need to do is to extend one leg, sit down, and roll over the opposite shoulder. Once again, watch how Mr. Jackshaw demonstrates this technique. The key element in that roll is to make sure that you ball up. Stay very tight as you roll over. If your legs separate from your body, you'll have trouble during the roll. Now watch as Mr. Jackshaw uses this back roll technique to escape the joint lock of Mr. Legband. The back roll enables Mr. Jackshaw to escape injury. This is a front dive roll, the short version of it. Mr. Legband's demonstrating the exact same principles as the front roll that we did earlier, only he's covering a little bit more distance. To do this technique, you must make sure that you have the first basic front roll down. Once you've gotten that technique down, you can graduate to higher and longer levels of dive rolling. This is a very nice technique from covering from one point to another. For example, in the shadows, moving from one tree to another. It covers the distance very quickly and minimizes the body mass. A little longer dive roll now. Mr. Legband is able to clear his target very easily with minimal amount of noise. Let's take a look in slow motion. Note how Mr. Legband tucks his body at the moment of impact to the ground. Once he balls up, he's able to escape injury. Watch him pull his back leg up nice and tight. This is what creates the ball effect. A much higher dive roll. This type of roll can be used over fences or high targets. You'll notice Mr. Legband springs off the balls of his feet in a straight upwards type motion. Once he reaches the peak, he'll begin his descent and ball up. As his hands touch the ground, he absorbs the ground, balls up, and is safe. The basic ninja side roll. You'll notice that Mr. Jackshaw tries to keep his eyes on the opponent or the target for as long a period as he can. This technique is done by leaning far to one side, absorbing the ground, balling up, and coming back up to the feet. A diving side roll. Difficult technique, but you'll notice his eyes. basic cartwheel technique. The diving side roll in slow motion. Now watch as the black belts demonstrate various cartwheel techniques. Cartwheel is excellent for developing mobility, control, and balance. I teach my people a variety of gymnastic style techniques that are traditional in the art of ninjutsu, but they are also very important because they help the black belts to get more control over themselves, more control over their bodies and their techniques. This is a round-off back pushover. Springs from the hands up and over, extends the leg, pushes off the forearms and the hands onto the feet again. The front handspring. Spring off the legs, push with the arms, land on the feet. Follow and end with a front roll. Front spring off of someone's back. Many times it's easier to learn by pushing off of a chair, a table, or someone's back when learning how to do a front handspring. Make sure you put the hands in the center of the back and not close to the front. Your hands should be on the most stable portion of the mass. Watch Mr. Clark as he demonstrates this in slow motion. This technique is designed to roll over the opponent's back. This type of skill could be used to roll over the hood of a car or any other object. The technique is done by placing the shoulder onto the target with the body momentum moving forward. You can easily land to your feet after the technique's been executed. Let's take a look again. Once again, you don't want to attempt this technique unless you understand the basic principles of the front roll. Round off back handspring. As Mr. Clark makes his approach, he springs off his feet, pushes off with his hands, and immediately springs off the balls of his feet again to do the back handspring. He immediately lands in a fighting position. An aerial. A running front flip. tucking front flip. Two-man rolling. One man goes low, the other one goes high. This takes a lot of balance and, above all, good timing. As Mr. Legband goes low, Mr. Jackshaw springs high. A more difficult version, a three-way dive roll. Watch closely. One man low, one man middle, one man high. Black belt Kim Green is going to demonstrate back flip. Very difficult technique. As she gets her momentum moving, she pushes off her hands to the balls of her feet, springs off the ground into a back flip.
Ninjutsu punching and kicking techniques. What you're about to see are some of the basic punching and kicking techniques as practiced by Robert Bussey's students.
Mr. Revoy right now is demonstrating a few of the hand-striking weapons that we have. The entire body of the ninja is a weapon, and the entire body of the opponent is a target. Here you're seeing the edge of the hand, or the shudo strike, or knife hand strike being used. The punching technique. A sharp, straight, forward hand punch using the knuckles of the hand. Notice Mr. Clark leans his whole body into the technique. This generates power. A sharp, hooking, straightforward punch. After it meets its target, it hooks through. The jab followed with a reverse punch. Not a solely traditional ninja technique, but very, very effective. Keeping the hands up tight close to the body, leaning forward into the two punches. Elbow strike. Attacking usually with the meaty portion of the forearm into its target. Mr. Revoy passes his entire body weight into the elbow strike. You'll see him using this body weight as we do it in slow motion. And a fast one. The fingertip strike. From a closed fist position, Mr. Clark opens his hand on impact with the soft areas of his opponent's body. This type of strike is usually generated at the eyes or the throat, or the softer parts of the body. Here you can see the body motion and hand position of the fingertip strike. The middle knuckle punch, using the sharp edges of the middle knuckles to strike into the target. This punch creates a cutting type of power behind the blow. Striking into the throat is probably one of the best target regions for this particular weapon. Pow. Let's move on to some kicking techniques. As you can see, Mr. Revoy has very strong legs as he demonstrates the front kicking technique. It can either be done with the ball of the foot or the tips of the toes. The knee aims at its target and the foot is driven out. Watch in slow motion. This is one of the most practical kicks in the martial arts today. Against an opponent, driving the foot out into the ribs, the knee, the back, the face, or any other region on the opponent's body. Done quickly. The inverted leg kick. Attacking with the bottom of the foot or the bottom of the heel into the target. Generally aimed at the back of the knee, the front of the knee, or the muscles in the thigh. Notice how Mr. Clark puts his whole body behind the kick. It's a very dangerous weapon, so be careful when practicing with a partner. It's very easy to cause injury. In a grappling situation, this can be one of the best kicks known to ninjutsu. The ninja front kick. This is a stomping type of move unique only to the art of ninjutsu. What Mr. Revoy is doing is bending his knee up close to his chest and driving the heel forward in a pushing, stomping kind of manner. Watch in slow motion as his foot rises up above its target and is driven out and down into the target. This is a very deceptive kick. The shin kick or round kick, attacking with the top of the foot or the shin into the target. This kick, of course, could be attacking into the side of the thigh, or up into the face, or into the ribs. Here Mr. Clark demonstrates a thigh round kick. Once again, his entire body weight is driven into the kick as he advances forward into its target. The back kick. One of the most devastating and powerful kicks in the martial arts today. Mr. Revo is demonstrating how to cock the leg up nice and tight and drive the heel out into the target. The hips are turned to maximize power into the kick. Zap. Once again, this kick could be driven into the ankle, the knee, the hips, the back, the body, or the face. This kick is called the outside snapping crescent kick, using the edge of the side of the foot to drive into the target. A short step is taken with the front leg, and the back leg drives the kick up and around into its target. Watch in slow motion as Mr. Clark demonstrates the motion of the kick. Against an opponent, the foot is cocked up nice and tight and driven out into the side of the target. Up and out. Done quickly. And in slow motion. The jumping shin kick or jumping round kick. This is a type of technique that you would use to cover distance or to kick someone very tall. By leaping into the air and picking the back leg up, the front leg is driven forward and out into the target. Watch as Mr. Revoy demonstrates. Up, the leg is cocked and driven out. Notice how Mr. Revoy lands, always in a position ready to continue the combat. The high roundhouse kick or high shin kick. Very powerful and devastating technique. Watch the upper body posture of Mr. Clark as he demonstrates this technique, staying very close and tight with his partner. Grabbing, driving the shin, knee, or foot into the target. .360 spinning hook kick. What Mr. Revoy is demonstrating is a leaping, kicking technique that involves a 360-degree turn in midair. Watch in slow motion as he picks up his back leg, spins in the air, and drives the back of the heel into its target. Once again, up into the air, spins around, and attacks. The stepping, jumping, spinning crescent kick, attacking with the edge of the foot. What Mr. Clark is demonstrating here is the kind of kick that you would use against a tall opponent or someone that is off balance. By taking a short step, he's able to spring into the air and drive the edge of the foot in a circular fashion into its target. He springs and fires the kick out. Against an opponent, takes a step, springs, and attacks. Always landing in a state of balance. .360 roundhouse kick, or shin kick. By picking up the back leg and turning it around and pushing off the ground, a roundhouse kick is thrown. Jumping spin and kick. A very powerful technique. One more time, let's take a look. Up, around, wham. Against a partner. Jumping, spinning back kick. Very powerful technique. Takes a short step, squats, springs up in the air, and drives the heel of his foot directly out behind him into the target. He steps, springs, fires the kick out there. He's attacking with the bottom of the foot or the heel of the foot. Watch Mr. Clark's body position as he demonstrates this technique. The hips are locked into position as he drives the heel of his foot forward and out into the target. One of our more practical weapons that we use in fighting in our dojo is the knee. At close range, it can be one of the most devastating tools of defense that you have. Mr. Revoy is demonstrating how to grab an opponent and drive the knee forward into the target. This is kind of a leaping version of that technique. It can also be done just by in a grappling situation or even on the ground.
Ninjutsu pressure points. What you're about to see is a demonstration of the various pressure points used in ninjutsu.
The first is a thumb strike. By placing the thumb at the base behind the ear, we can press into the nerve to oftentimes paralyze our opponent. This type of technique is used in law enforcement daily. Another technique is to take the thumb and place it behind the ear while you're holding the hair. The other fingers can cover the mouth. This will silence the opponent as you apply the pressure on the earlobe. By grabbing behind the back and taking the middle finger and the thumb, you can apply pressure on each side of the windpipe. By using two fingers, you can drive them into the collarbone to down the opponent. We use this a lot during fighting in ninjutsu, especially during close quarter combat. By reaching behind the bone and pushing down, you're easily able to down your opponent. The same version or same technique can also be applied right at the base of the throat, in behind the chest bone there. In and down. By attacking into the pectoral nerve and muscle, the ninja can oftentimes push his opponent away and even oftentimes down him. In ninjutsu we use joint locks, nerve pinching, and muscle and skin tight pinching techniques. By grabbing the skin on the sides of the ribs, ninja can easily down his opponent. Just by making a kind of a half fist, when one grabs the skin, the pain is excruciating. This kind of semi-paralyzes your opponent to give you enough time to either down him, escape, or set up for another attack. By using the thumb into the forearm, the nerves along the forearm, a lot of times we can down an opponent. Now Mr. Clark uses one thumb to do the pressure, his other thumb to support the pressure thumb. Now this kind of technique works on most people, but there are other people that it doesn't affect. So if it doesn't, that's why you have to have a wide arsenal of skills to be able to move on to something else. Usually, when you find the nerve in the right spot, he'll go down.
Ninjutsu body toughening exercises. You're about to see some of the basic conditioning exercises as practiced by Robert Bussey students.
Sometimes the students will strike each other's body into the muscles and the skin. It's very important that one learns how to take a shot a little bit. It also helps strengthen and to help your mind to control the pain that you might get during fighting. But watch as Mr. Clark and Mr. Keith Jones demonstrate some of these types of techniques during conditioning. In our dojo we fight with no gloves and no pads, and we do make contact. And so these kind of techniques really help us develop our good fighting skills. Now, of course, you want to build up to hitting with this kind of force into your training partner. Not something you want to start out with. As you can see, the redness on their body from the various strikes. As you get more confident with this kind of thing, you can develop more skills, be able to hit even harder.
Robert Bussey's obstacle course.
The obstacle course is one of the most physically demanding and one of the most exciting aspects of our ninja training. Most of the time we use a variety of different obstacle techniques every year at our summer camp. Take a look at some of the excerpts from last year's camp. The obstacle course is very physically demanding. It requires a lot of stamina, which also helps us with the speed, the focus, and the body strength that we'll need for the rest of our ninja skills. It's very important that the modern ninja be in good physical shape. Take advantage of the body that God gave us to make it as strong and powerful as we can make it. The obstacle course is a very excellent training exercise. obstacle course requires a lot of balance, a lot of coordination, and a lot of stamina. You can develop your own obstacle course in your area by just finding a park. You can set up any kind of training aids that you would like. But the idea of the whole thing is just to work as hard as you can to be the very best that you can be. The obstacle course is one way of helping develop the skills of the ninja to make them a strong, powerful warrior.
You okay? I'm ready to play back. Go ahead. Go, keep going. Go. Robert Bussey's ninjutsu. Yeah. Right.
Women's self-defense.
There. As my wife Peggy Bussey demonstrates, a woman can defend herself against a stronger opponent using various combat taijutsu techniques. You have to remember that the more realistic your combat training is, the more you'll be able to apply these types of skills if you ever have an actual situation. What you're seeing here is an elbow dislocating technique, followed by a strike, and of course, running away. There. Hey there. Another effective combat technique. As the opponent comes up in an offensive manner, Peg moves to the inside, striking into the face and hook leg sweeping out the base leg of the opponent. The moment he hits the ground, she applies an elbow lock to put excruciating pain on the elbow. Hey there. Watch again. Down the opponent, elbow lock. Let's take another look at that. Peg is able to take advantage of his body weight by pushing his face forward as she demonstrates the hook leg sweep. The moment the opponent hits the ground, she uses the arm lock. As the opponent closes in, goes to grab her with both arms, she moves to the inside of those arms using a double block. Instantly, she grabs the back of the hair and the chin and bulldogs the opponent to the ground. The moment the opponent hits the ground, she puts her entire body weight behind the heel stomp to the head. And of course, a fighting position. Let's take another look. Lock, bulldog, and the stomp. As the opponent approaches Peg and goes to grab her, she instantly reacts by taking her hand and driving it hard into the opponent's groin. Once the opponent is loosened up, she drives an elbow back into the throat or the face and ends with a powerful back kick into the ribs.
This concludes Volume 1 of the series of training videos based upon Robert Bussey's approach to modern ninjutsu.